I've been meaning to get to Aliens vs. Predator 2010. It's technically a series reboot to the past two games, but that's not saying much. More importantly, AVP 2010 was one of several attempts by Rebellion to relaunch itself as a top-tier developer, as it had during its heyday. Many of these did not turn out so well, with AVP 2010 being one of the most divisive thanks to a certain other Aliens FPS that will go unnamed. So as a result, I went in under the assumption fans of the franchise had given me, that this was the superior entry, that this is what they wanted. So, what did I find?
Begin the breaching procedure.
Well, imagine a game from 2010 that looks like a game from 2006, plays like a game from 2001, features the level design of 1997, and boasts the narrative ambitions of an 80s FMV game.
What's the matter, rookie? Didn't they cover this in simulation?
This is Aliens vs. Predator 2010 in a nutshell, and it doesn't get better from here, so buckle up, folks. Also, the multiplayer is as dead as the Alien Derelict, so we'll be sticking strictly to the campaign and solo survivor. By default, you might think that you should start with the human campaign. And you'd be wrong! While the storyline of the Rookie, a generic, gruff, voiceless male protagonist, is as painfully dull as it is unrewarding and padded, the script itself is just outright careless, featuring a moment where an elevator's cables are cut, but somehow another person hacking the elevator makes it work again. Yeah, they never explain that. In theory, there's a cast of characters, but most die in 2 scenes or less, save for the sole highlight, a Russian android with actual charisma thanks to an actor who clearly gives a damn. And if you think that maybe, at least it's a better FPS than that other game. Oh, Marine, you have no idea what you're getting into. You're offered a paltry set of 4 guns and a pistol that sound awful and handle like a stiff set of Fisher-Price toys. They even include a gun from Alien Resurrection on the PS1, the shotgun, but somehow make it feel completely impotent in this version, despite over a decade of advances in animation and sound design. Your motion detector is useless, relegated to a HUD element you instantly ignore. You also have to use inelegant melee combat prompts alongside this terrible first-person shooting. Your enemies are restricted to just generic xenomorphs that have basically next to no variety, occasionally a few spit at you, but it's really inconsistent and they barely pop up, and the odd Weyland-Yutani combat androids. Wait a damn minute. Why didn't anyone flip their lids when this game threw Wei-Yu grunts that you like in? No, we're not getting into that bug hive of hypocrisy. No, we're just gonna keep walking on past it. It's a thing. It should be acknowledged, but we're just keep moving. Just keep it moving. Anyway, did I forget to mention that it also has the worst boss fights in the entire game? The final can be literally cleared in less than half a minute if you just spam grenades. In fact, the truly most challenging sequence in the entire campaign just requires you run back and forth vaulting over crates to keep yourself out of harm's way. I wish I was joking. And to be honest, the only notable aspect of the Marines campaign is that there are vague hints near the start of the campaign that make you wonder if it was originally intended to be Metroidvania or open world, only for these teasing level elements to never appear again. We'll likely never know if that was the case, but what we do have here is one of the worst first-person shooter campaigns in years. It is mercifully short by today's standards, but otherwise so forgettable that it fades from memory the second you swap to the other campaigns on offer. Which brings us to the next part of this trilogy of misery, the Predator campaign. By comparison to the Rookie's campaign, your time as Youngblood can be best described as okay or acceptably mixed. Imagine grafting an Arkham game with a first-person shooter that handles like Quake 2, and that about summarizes the entire gameplay experience. It's clunky, but at least offers a few unique ideas that work. Some abilities like cloaking in your spear are grievously overpowered, but at least satisfying, while others like your proximity mines are borderline useless. And some are very situational, like the distraction option. You also have this first-person brawling melee combat, primarily used with the Xenomorphs, and it's incredibly repetitive. Especially the melee takedown animations. To the Predator's credit, he actually accomplishes the most out of anyone in the plot, but he's generally a jackass, so it's hard to sympathize with him. Though you can't help but give a childish snort at least once when half of his distraction taunts to an enemy AI is just saying the word mother. Like it's the only English word he knows. It's I think it's supposed to be badass, but it just sounds ridiculous. Remarkably though, there's no twists or curveballs. It's the most straightforward campaign of them all. You just hop around between levels, fighting primarily with stealth and awkwardly having to use the health system built for the human characters, making the nigh undefeatable predators as weak as some no-name schmuck. Okay then. Doesn't go that well for the Predators in their boss fights in the other campaigns either, but at least the Predator campaign has a good final boss fight for itself. So, at least it gets to go out on a high note. However, the fact that the Predator feels like an afterthought across multiple levels is a very big oversight, given he's half the reason we're here. In grand total, the Predator campaign is about as forgettable as Aliens vs. Predator Requiem. Maybe not as grotesquely repulsive, but just as much a waste of everyone's time and energy. There are ideas here that could have been salvaged, but this game, it's not worth it. Which leaves us with one last option.
No, Dr. Rose. I want it alive. I like this one. Send in the combat androids.
To its credit, the Xenomorph campaign is probably the best portion of AVP 2010. You're fast and lethal with some fantastic stealthing that echoes hints of Splinter Cell, and the first-person brawling finally works, given you aren't half as sluggish as the Predator. There's nothing really like this on the market, and in a rare turn, a lot of the design decisions actually work. They make sense, for once. You still have a few levels meant for other playstyles, but overall, the Xenomorph sections flow the best with a variety of enemies and one of the more notable boss fights. You're basically playing as an evil alien Batman known only as Six, sneaking and killing your way to free your hive. Ironically, there's way more effort to make you sympathetic to Six than the humans or the Predator. Six's hive goes through hell under Weyland-Yutani's care, so their initial revolt feels justified. Now, if only you weren't a walking H.R. Geiger embodiment of penal rape. And yes, your tolerance for this will make or break your experience for this part of the game. While optional, the game rather heavily encourages you hold down civilians and force a facehugger on them as they struggle in futility. And it's just a shame because this campaign is the only memorable part of this game, but the context sours things quickly. It doesn't help that the Predator also has this fetishistic animation for stroking the spines of still dying decapitated heads of colonial marines either. Make no mistake, you're playing horror villains, and Rebellion clearly has no qualms with portraying that in concerning detail. Yikes.
Hold out against the alien swarm for as long as possible. Warning, incoming wave detected.
And now, to top things off, we've got Solo Survivor, the only multiplayer mode with bots because it's a horde mode. Well, actually, that's being generous because horde mode in Gears at least tried to be engaging, whereas this feels like a gray box prototype no one ever expanded upon. You've got 2 guns available, some health kits, and a very cramped play space where just one type of Xenomorph spawns in periodically. This is genuinely less creative than some Steam asset flip games. There's no expanding the map, or unlocking new abilities, or guns, or escalating threat, or anything. Even the scoring system is unclear, and all your score really says is how patient you are, because the waves don't even seem to grow in intensity. I don't even understand why they bothered if this is all that would be implemented, and I'm sorry, I can't not say anymore. How is this thing better than Aliens Colonial Marines? How? I haven't even brought up all the problems yet. Visually, it's hideous. The sound design is all over the map. The game design is schizophrenic. The tonality never seems to be tuned right. The levels don't feel like they went through any sort of QA testing. The campaigns don't really flow, they just sort of bop in and out. This is the sort of game Alien fans want? Really? This is what we're saying that we want? Colonial Marines might have butchered the canon and been a mess at launch, but at least with mods, it's worth experiencing. Especially Bug Hunt. This sort of game you should expect to see offered for $2 alongside copies of Legendary and Mindjack. I'm just relieved that this came as an extra that was bundled in with Alien's Colonial Marines. If I had spent the $60 at launch that Sega and Rebellion were asking for, oh, my blood would be boiling hotter than a Xenomorph's. No question, a 3 out of 10.